Hello and welcome, people, to the Fair One podcast, formerly known as Grange TV. I'm going to hit the intro and I'll be with you guys shortly. We were going to start at 5, but I couldn't help myself but start a little bit early as I like your company very, very much, guys. I'm here, people. Let me know if there's any problems with the sound and whatnot. Last time my daughter, who's 1.5, had grabbed everything that she could and sabotaged my career here as a podcaster for MMA fighting. Mainly, I do the UFC cards. We Are Live says first again. Yes, we are live. You are first, and thank you very much for your support, my friend. I really appreciate it. I'm not going to lie. I wasn't that excited for this card. I was very, very excited for the main event, the Corey Sanhagen versus TJ Dillashaw. It's not that I don't think the other fighters on that card are good. I think they are all very, very good fighters, but they were kind of like, I'm not exactly sure, where they were going kind of thing and whatnot. It's not a Coke can, Randy. This is a cola kombucha. So it's a cola flavored kombucha, and the cola flavor comes from cinnamon and a whole bunch of other stuff. So very good. I don't even get paid for that. I'm just giving them a good plug. Yeah, like I don't know where some of the fights were going necessarily. Like it's not they're not fights that I'm super excited about. But yeah, man, that is what it is. But the ones that to me have really got me to watch this card, and the ones that saved it for me, are the Punahale Soriano versus Brendan Allen, and the Nasruddin Imavov versus Ian Heinisch. Both those fights, I think they mean a lot for that middleweight division. It's a kind of coming of age, changing of the guard of the fighters, if you will. And both, well, Brendan Allen is not very old at all, but still he's a UFC veteran, and Soriano is new to the UFC, relatively new, and so is Imavov and Heinisch. Heinisch is definitely a veteran of the sport. It's going to be a big changing of the guard there if the boys can do it. If there's the two newcomers can beat these two new guys, there's going to be some much needed new blood coming into that middleweight division. I still see Israel and Rob being so far ahead of the rest of the pack that you can't hear the band playing. That's out of no disrespect to everyone else. It's just the way that it's played out. I don't see any other middleweights beating them or even giving them a proper run, to be honest with you. I just don't see it right now. That's right now. That isn't to say that someone hits their stride, that a new guy comes through. One of the guys that I think is a guy to watch out for is Nasruddin Imavov. He's very, very accomplished striker. He almost beat Phil Hawes, and Phil Hawes comes highly touted. Phil Hawes is interesting because I think over 7 or 8 minutes, there's not many people that are going to hang with him properly because he's just so powerful. His wrestling's so good. His shots are so good. He hits so hard. But after that, he starts to fade. And when he fought Jacob, and I trained Jacob for years and years. I trained Jacob for about 6 years. When he fought Jacob, I had nothing to do going into that fight because I've left that fight team. But when I thought Jacob would beat him, I thought that Jacob would fight him similar, and the guy's name escapes me. I'm going to look him up now. I thought Jacob would fight kind of similar to the guy that beat Phil Hawes, and his name is the Cuban Missile. His nickname is. I can't believe that I can't think of his name right now. I'm looking him up right now as we speak. The name is. He fought him on the Julian Marquez. I can't believe I didn't have that guy's name. And Julian Marquez is a diesel engine. I thought that he would be able to Jacob would fight him similar to that. Jacob's boxing is very, very good. He's got very good timing. But, Phil Hawes jumped on him right off the bat, hit him with huge shots and stopped the fight. Having said that, so you got these guys that Julian Marquez, Phil Hawes, Imavov, Soriano, Jacob Malkoon. So these guys are all coming up in the new blood of the much needed new blood of the middleweight division. Phil Hawes has shown that he's got all those physical attributes to do it. There is a question mark with his cardio. Imavov was able to push him into deeper waters. Julian Marquez was able to push him into deeper waters, and they were able to capitalize on that. Imavov wasn't able to win, but he definitely was able to capitalize and able to hurt Phil Hawes. That's what makes Imavov very, very, very interesting to me. There were a few things that he could have done different in that fight, but it was still, in my opinion, he could have done different, like the way he just engaged with Phil Hawes in certain positions. But he's a guy that, to me, the Russian sniper, Imavov, fights out of France. He's a guy to watch for me at this point. He's a very interesting fighter. So it's those two fights that have me very, very interested. Brendan Allen has got very good grappling, very good jiu-jitsu, well-rounded fighter. I'm lost to Strickland, who's headlining against Uriah Hall next week. I'm very interested to see how he's going to handle Soriano, if he can handle Soriano. Can Soriano handle Brendan Allen and Brendan Allen's jiu-jitsu? His last win came off a footlock, so that's interesting. Hunter Dwyer says, "Do you think Aspen Ladd calling out Misha Tate as a late replacement for Kherson is good from a fight self-promotion aspect?" I was with Rob when Macy Kherson was on that season of The Ultimate Fighter that we coached, and that Rob was the coach for that against Gastelum. I wanted Macy Kherson on our team. She's from New Orleans. I watched her. She's good, man. She has a lot of potential. Do I think Aspen Ladd calling out Misha Tate? I mean, I think it's good from a promotional perspective, but Misha just fought the other day, and I don't like to run people down. I'm not trying to run people down. I'm just telling it straight, you know. I mean, Misha went in there, got the job done, and she won. The person that she fought was an older lady, you know what I mean? She wasn't like a young up and coming person, and Misha did a good job. She won, you know, but it didn't. One, she's not going to be ready to fight. I don't know if she's going to be ready to fight. So I mean, any publicity is good publicity, and Misha's a big name, whether you like it or not. Whatever you're going to say about her, she's a big name in MMA. Not, I was going to say in women's MMA, not in women's MMA, just in MMA. She's a big name. People know who Misha Tate is. So if you can put your name next to hers, it's always going to be good. So yeah, anytime you can do that, I think that's good. And Aspen Ladd fights hard, man, and she'll take that fight, you know. And honestly, she's got a good chance of winning too. Handsome Fat Boy says 6th. Yes, sir. Brad Galea, thank you, sir. Right off the bat, look at this guy just throwing bombs. G'day, Fab. Cheers for the stream. Hope lockdown isn't going too bad for you and the family. Honestly, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm just going to keep it, you know, real with you guys. It's not that hard for me from a point of view of being able to handle the lockdown per se. The lockdown here for me, where I live and everything, it's great. You know, like I hang out with my family. I have my daughter, my you know, and we hang out all day. I live by the beach. You know, take my dog for a walk. So those things are okay. You know, that all of that's good. You know, work out the rest of it. I hate that I can't grapple and all of that because of the way that the lockdown is very, very serious for us here. We can't, like, where I live anyways, you can't, not meant to leave the house for anything other than to get food. Only one person can leave the house, and only once, for other than to exercise. So we can go out and walk and train and go for a run and that, but yeah, that part. But it's not that's not that hard. The only thing that's hard, and I'm not going to lie to you, is financially. It is a little bit hard because this kind of stuff that I do with like corporate training, obviously training athletes, anything like that. Now that's all cut, right? So I'm kind of living off savings, which luckily enough I have. Being that I know that this is the life that I live, so I know that that's how I work. But right now, I can't train any athletes. I can't, and all the stuff I do is contract work. Like any of the consultancy stuff that I do with any corporate work, that's all been cut. So that part of it is hard. But I mean, we do have savings. We do kind of plan for that, and so that's a bit of a thing that you have to get your mind around. But as far as being locked down, like as far as me having to be here at home and that, other than not being able to see my extended family, like my mum, my dad, my sisters, my brother-in-law, my niece, who I, cherish my niece as well. I feel like, like another daughter with her. Other than that, no, it's all right. 808 V Dub says, lots of love. Aloha from Hawaii, brother Fab. Right back at you, sir. Right back at you. Aloha. Right back at you, my friend. Christian Lorenz says, greetings, Fab. Greetings to you, Christian. Pip Dennison says, hey, Hefe, hey, all. Crack Combat says, did unsee what Kellerman said about Mahashev? I did not. Hit me with what he said. Declan McSheffrey says, do you think Tai committing to AKA wholeheartedly can translate into him becoming a title contender in the future? I think AKA is an amazing gym. I don't know if he's with AKA per se, because I think Daniel Cormier opened up his own gym as well. So I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs of that. I think Tai committing to training, period. Once he sets his mind into it, I don't think he has to go to AKA, to be honest with you. I don't think he has to go anywhere. But having someone like DC vouch for you, put in time for you, and have those minds around you, that's awesome. But the reality is, I think it was Musashi said this. Whatever you're searching for is within. So someone like Tai, man, if he decides he's going to train, it's not like he lives, if you told me he lives in some tiny island in the Pacific with a population of 40, then yeah, he'd have to. But whether he trains in Australia, in New Zealand, in the US, whatever, if he puts his mind to it, Tai can be as good as anyone. I called that before, way before. I think he could be a heavyweight champion for sure. He has shown not even close to what his potential is. Like he's a guy that, like, honestly, the fight, and I said this to him on the podcast when he was on the podcast with us. I saw him fight when he was a kid. He fought Peter Graham and he lost. And it was in that fight, more than other fights that I've seen him since, that it was that moment I was like, fuck, that guy can be champion, Just the way he moved, and like he was like 18, 19 years old. If you don't know who Peter Graham is, Google who Peter Graham is, because he's a bad motherfucker. And to take that fight, imagine this, like you're 1 or 2 years out of high school, no real proper full-on formal training, football player, and you fight Peter Graham, in a hybrid rules match. And man, he got in there and fought, and seeing that, I was like, man, this sky's the limit for him. So as soon as he puts his head to fighting, you know what I mean? As soon as he puts his head to fighting, like as a profession, and I'm actually talking to a couple of people that pro fighters. I won't mention the name yet. If we keep working together, great, you'll know. If not, some things stay confidential. But one of the conversations that I have is like, you've got all these tools, you've got all these things, and it's up to you what you're going to do with it. You know what I mean? It's up to them what they want to do. As soon as Tai goes, this is a job, it's professional, sees himself as a Formula One car and has a pit crew around him that he trusts. And I'm not saying, I know his coaches, Tama and Sean Sullivan, and that the ones that are here in Australia, they're good, man. They're real good coaches, man. Tama Tahuna's Jamie Tahuna's brother, just the guys he had around him. I don't know what the interactions are there or whatnot or whatever, but he had good people around him already. But as soon as Tai goes, I can be champion. Like, you can say it, but as soon as he starts it gets in there that he can be a champion, and he flips that switch, yeah, he's going to be amazing. Here's another thing that I'm going to say to you: when we talk about fighter pay, what a lot of people don't realize is the fighter pay trickles down to your coach's pay. Like, what the coaches get is fuck all. Like, whatever percentage you get off the fighters is nothing. So most of these coaches are doing it out of labor of love. Like, when you talk about, say, for example, you talk about, you got to go to this place, you got to go to the US or whatever, or you got to go to a lot of these people are good at running a business. I'm not saying that they're not fantastic coaches as well. They are, but you're only getting the best coaches that are good at running businesses a lot of the times. But you can go to a PCYC and have some dude that was with the Ukraine national team and coached however many amateur world champions, and he's in the coaching for $20 an hour, or for free sometimes. Now that guy can only put some. If you grab him, you have a good connection with him, etc. But you're fighting in the UFC and you're fighting for 15 and 15. You can't pay this guy too much more than what he's getting as a at the PCYC. So it's hard for you here in Australia as well to be able to get a good whole team together of guys that you trust, because the best place in the world might not be the best place for you, and the best place in Australia might not be the best place for you. So you have to put a good team together, and that makes it a little bit hard because the coaches have to gamble on you as well. Everyone only talks about the fighters, but the coaches have to put in a lot of time, and they're not getting a lot of money back. So it's hard. It's not like the fighters are getting enough money to be able to compensate the coaches as well. John Price says, "G'day Fab, g'day chat. How do you see Sanhagen going at 145? Do you reckon he matches up well, seeing he's tall for a featherweight?" I don't know Sanhagen that well. It's like I've said before. It's not just being tall. It's also like your frame and your hands, your wrists, etc. He's fucking tall, dude. For a bantamweight, he's 5'11". That's my height. I don't know how he gets to bantamweight being my height. Featherweight, my height. But see, we're probably built different. You get what I mean? We're probably built very different. Not like it's not just your height. I don't know how easily and how well he goes at 140, how easily he gets down to 135. He looks like he's not struggling with it. He looks very fluid at that weight, at that 135. He sits behind his jab really, really well. He'd still have a height advantage at featherweight, so he'd probably do quite well. But I want to see how far he can do at 135. And I think even Dillashaw's going to have a question mark on it, because he's 35 years old, and with the little guys, it doesn't translate. Being older doesn't translate as well as it does with middleweights, lightweights, heavyweights. The heavier you are, the more strength and power you're more reliant on those components of fitness, and they're the last ones to go. Like your strength and your power, the last ones to go. But your speed, your reflexes, and everything, they start to diminish quickly. And at the little guys, that's their money. That's what they bank on. So I don't know how Dillashaw's going to come back. So he's 35 years old. He's a little guy. He was done for drugs. He's coming back off that 2 years off. I don't know. Dillashaw, to me, is an amazing, fantastic, highly, highly skilled fighter. I think Dillashaw is just amazing. Like, I love watching TJ Dillashaw fight. I don't know what he's going to look like now. So an answer to that question as well is, it depends as well. Like, if how Sanhagen does against Dillashaw, because if he comes out and smokes Dillashaw for whatever the reason, doesn't matter why, then we got to see Sanhagen fight for a title. He'd be right. He'd be there. After Yan and Sterling do what they have to do, it's going to be him. So once it's him, does he need to go up to featherweight? I don't know. And also on that, I'd like to see him fight some of these guys. Like Frankie Edgar is a little bit older. He was fantastic. Moraes, he did a good job against him. But now Dillashaw, arguably, is a little bit older as well. I guess we're going to know more and more about him when we see him. Like, skill-wise, we can do a breakdown. He's fantastic. But we're going to see more when he fights Aljamain Sterling, a guy that's in his prime, which we've already seen that anyways. Sterling beat him. But that Sanhagen is not this Sanhagen, So I'm interested to see that. Peter Yan, etc. These fights are going to be interesting. Basically compared, NG says, "Hey Fab, are you training anyone at present who you think might make it in the UFC? Any young Aussie talent to keep an eye out for in the UFC in the future?" I am working with a couple of people that I think can make big waves in MMA for sure. I won't put their names out right now. Like we'll see. It's still early days, so we'll see what happens. Any young Aussie talent to keep an eye out in the future? Yeah, for sure. I'll tell you now, Brad Fulmer. There's a young kid, Sione Vekoso, another young guy coming through. Um, what's the guy's name? Oh my god, I forgot the guy's name. Let me look him up. Only because you guys asked me this, I'm looking it up right now. Um, I mean, I can't think of the kid's name. My God. Um, I got to look him up now. Now it'll kill me if I can't. I'm stuck with this. With the I can't think of the guy's name. There's a kid, anyways. He trains out of Alpha Males, fights out of Sydney. Guy mentioned him here before. Very, very good fighter. Very good young fighter. I think he won worlds at purple belt or something like that. I think his surname's Thompson. I'm gonna throw it out there. Oh my god, I can't think of his name. Another one, Tito Carl, very very good grappler is young Tito. He might struggle a little bit because he's short. He's like a short guy, but he's a heavyweight. Jiu-jitsu is really good. He's got a really slick jiu-jitsu. Um, then there's a few other people, man, that we're talking to at the moment as well. Good, really good young boxers. They might make the jump to MMA. I don't know. Again, I don't want to put their names out there because they've got Olympic trials, a whole bunch of other things that they've, not now Olympic trials now, but in the future they'll have Olympic trials and that coming up. So there's a few young kids, man, that are coming through in Australia that are going to be real good, really important to watch. Christian Lawrence says, I was a fan of TJ. I saw him rematch Barao in Chicago. I lost lots of respect for TJ when he tested positive for EPO, and therefore that claimed he could beat Demetrius and didn't care about flyweight. And before that, claimed he could beat Demetrius and didn't care about flyweight. I mean, anyone's going to say anything, right? But I don't like. Obviously, it's going to like whatever we're going to think about drugs in sport. The problem with it, and this is just me. I'm not like when I say this is coming from someone. I don't even drink alcohol, but the reality is that this thing like USADA is I don't know. Like I think Jack Slack mentioned this in his podcast. If you want to have a look at it, I got a chance to listen to it. I don't know if it was today or yesterday or whatever, whichever one it was. But if you do get a chance, listen to Jack Slack's podcast. Very very good. Um, and he was speaking about it, and I 100% agree with him. Like USADA, the testing is not. It's you're crazy if you think that it's there. The USADA got put there to legitimize UFC for when they sold the company. I think the last high profile person they caught was a couple of years ago. It might have been TJ. Like I don't like high profile guy that they caught. Um, it's not TJ is not alone in there. That he's not the one that he's not the only guy that's on EPO or steroids or whatever. I don't even know how he got caught, to be honest with you, because it's not hard to pass a test. It's not it's so I yeah, like I don't agree with the usage of drugs and whatnot. Performance enhancing drugs, I think it's crazy. But I also think like, dude, if they really wanted to take it serious, these shouldn't be allowed to fight, dude. You know what I mean? Nothing. Jordan Roth says thoughts on Darren Till striking. Good man, really good. Like He's really good, but again, I think with people asking stuff about Tai, I think with Darren, there's it's not these physical attributes that are kind of like he's a little bit. I think there's another part of him that has to kind of turn. There's kind of switch the flick the switch. He has to flick the switch, I believe. And I think he probably will in the next couple of years as he matures a little bit. Um, his striking is good. He's got a real good ability, right? To kind of he goes from point A to point B laterally, and so he takes your space. So he's kind of outside of your range, and he sneaks through and kind of skips a step is the word I was looking for. He does a very 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 good skip with his step, and then he lands that left hand and he hits hard. Um, and he's very composed with the way he strikes. I don't think it's physical. He can do all the work. I just think there's things that he kind of they're going to come with maturity. And once some of these guys flick that switch, maturity wise, um, the changes are huge, man. The changes are huge. So I think he's very, very good, very smart. I love the way he skips across. He does this little skip, and he's inside your range. So he's outside of your range. He cuts the angle when he skips across, and then he's closer to you, and you haven't realized it, and he throws that left hand down the pipe and hits you. Marshall Smarter says, "Hey, my man. Hello, sir. How are you, mate? How's things going?" Jordan Roth says, "He's very fluent in striking. I don't understand how it comes from Muay Thai background." What do you mean by that? Marshall Smarter says, "Gents." Christian Lorenz says, "Tai has amazing potential. He has so much experience for his age. His stand-up game is very good. His in-and-out movement is superb for heavyweight, and his leg kicks, natural power, fight IQ." Yeah, he's a natural-born fighter, dude. And the other thing with him is he played rugby league in Australia, and he played it at a very, very, very high level. He should have, could have, would have played first grade NRL. And so when you have that, like NRL in Australia is no joke. If you're first grade NRL player, like you physically have all the talent in the world to do whatever you want with any sport. But and like the to make it to the top, there's not many spots open. You know what I mean? There's not many teams. There's not a lot of spots, but it's an extremely popular sport on the east coast of Australia, in particular in Queensland and New South Wales, and they're both very very like high densely populated states for Australia. You know what I mean? Not like we're not densely populated, period, but we've definitely got and Melbourne, but the East Coast here is what dominates population wise, and it's stupidly popular NRL here in Australia, and in New Zealand. So you kind of have that East Coast of Australia and New Zealand, rugby union being more popular in New Zealand, but still people play rugby league over there. When you have like the state of origin, which is like the all-star game for the people that aren't from Australia, that is the most viewed show on Australian television, period. There's nothing that gets more viewers or more rates, higher ratings than the NRL state of origin. Why I'm saying all of that is because that's how popular it is. Young guys that are built like Tai, all of them are playing rugby league. All of them are trying to get into things. I've worked with numerous first grade teams. I've worked in their junior rankings coming through as well in the selection process, and you'll have like hundreds of kids invited to a trial for one team, like hundreds. And when I say like it's not open trials, these are kids that were invited to come out to trial, and these kids are all good, and they're all freaks of nature. And those kids, like, there's this whole process, and a kid like Tai that made it and didn't play, he's every bit as talented as anyone else in the world, like that's very, very, very talented guy. So yeah, I don't doubt his ability not even by any stretch. Brad Galea says, "I'm keen for TJ versus Sanhagen. Pretty hard fight to predict, but I'm leaning towards TJ. I'm curious if he goes back to his wrestling roots. If it stays standing up, I think it'll be a lot closer." I think TJ has a lot of wrestling stuff that he can do. I think he likes to switch like surgical hitting, like bum, bum, bum. I think TJ does that really, really well. I think TJ, he likes to cut the angle and then hits people as they're turning back towards him. Having said that, I don't know. I can't tell you. It's 2 years and in mid-30s is a long time. It's a really, really long time to not have fought. So I can't tell you this. I can't tell you who I think will win. TJ maybe 3-4 years ago versus Sanhagen now. I don't know. I'd favor TJ. But I don't know. Christian Lorenz says Tai will need those high level heavyweight fights now and continue to work his way up. Yeah, man, it'll be interesting to see how he does. Marshall Smarter says it's crazy hard to establish that trust and commitment on both sides. It takes years. I'm assuming you're talking about the coaching stuff. Is that what you're talking about, Marshall Smartest? Ice Out says, "What's up, Fab? Hope all is well." Yes, sir, it is, man. We're doing quite well here. We're having a good time. Davin 999 says, "I wonder what featherweight Fab would look like." I not now, I wouldn't, but even when I was like 28, 29, I could make featherweight. I'm not a big guy. I'm not that big of a guy. But it was real hard. It was real hard to make like 66 kilos, 68 kilos. It was real hard, not fun or healthy for me. It's not. Lightweight is a good weight for me. 70 kilograms, good weight. But how the fuck he makes bantamweight, I don't know. Bantamweight I'd be dead. I'd be sick. I'd have renal failure. So the way that we're built, it's not just the height. It's the way that we're built is different as well. Hyena says 160 to 135 to Dillashaw. He cuts 25 pounds. Also, you have to understand something, man. Like, it's not just the weight. I could say, for example, if I cut to lightweight at 70 kilos, right, I could get fat in the off season. If I fight twice a year, I could get fat in the off season and say walk around at 93 kilos, and Rob walks around at 96, 97 kilograms, lean, right? But he's lean at 97 kilos. I'm fucking fat as fuck at 93 kilos, and I'm cutting down to 70. That doesn't mean that like my body composition is probably a lean 80 kilograms. Do you get what I mean? So it's not just that, like that's why when people say Israel, he's small, he walks around at 92 kilograms, but they don't understand he's 6'4", 92, 93 kilos, 91 kilograms, what have you, but he's lean. He's already lean. So the cut is not like Rob's lean at 96, 97, 96, he's pretty lean. He's a big guy. But Israel's real lean at 92, 91. He's not like a fat 91 that cuts to 84. That then I'd say to him, man, you should be fighting at 77. Now he's a lean dude, 92 kilograms lean, 93 kilograms lean. It's not just how heavy you get, How much do I think TJ has improved since leaving Team Alpha Male to join Ludwig? What drawbacks, if any, did you see in his fight since he joined him? Those things are always difficult, man, because what people don't understand as well is like you train somewhere, you train with anyone for 10 years, right? 5-10 years. And then you go train somewhere else. This is not exactly a thing with TJ, but I'm just painting a picture. You go and train somewhere else with someone for 3 years, and then you show these massive improvements. They may have just joined dots that you needed joined from those other 10 years. It's hard to go, he improved a lot since he left Team Alpha Male because a lot of the work was done by Team Alpha Male. You can't, and a lot of the work was done before that with his high school and college wrestling coaches, So it's very hard to say he's improved since he left because he went to Ludwig. Having said that, I think that what happens is a lot of the times it's time to move on. Like it's not that Alpha Male wasn't good and that he improved because of Dwayne Ludwig or whatever. It might have been that, and a lot of people can't handle conflict. A lot of people don't understand how to handle conflict, or that even that conflict is healthy. But sometimes your how do I say this? The chemistry wears off, and you need a new place and a new connection with people. So I think that Dwayne Ludwig has been great for him. I think Team Alpha Male was great for him at the time. It served its purposes. Um, and I think he did really, really well in that environment. But I think he connected with Dwayne Ludwig, and I think that that's something that people don't understand. When you connect with people, and it's not that Dwayne Ludwig's better than Uriah Faber and co. It doesn't mean that. It just means that you and that person clicked, and when you click, you're able, and you enjoying that, whatever that connection is, you're able to adhere to training better. And when you adhere to training better and you connect well with that person, you learn more and you learn better. um but I think that a lot of that, you also, and there's no two ways about it, have to still thank Team Alpha Male for a lot of it. It just means that you got to a point that, okay, thank you. Now this is cool. I have to, not even move on to bigger, better. It's just you have a different connection. You just have a different connection to people. Um, I I just think that he fights really well. He fights. He reminds me in some ways of Dwayne Ludwig, the way he fights. And I think he's able to employ that. He's that level of striking, the technical level of striking, the switch hitting that he does. Um, he's able to pick things better. He's able to find different angles. He's able to hit people on an angle. So no, I don't see any drawbacks necessarily. Um, I don't see that. I think it was just the right match. I think they were both the right matches at the right times. Like he was in a good place with Team Alpha Male, and then he connected with Ludwig, and that's a place for him to be. So I think it's good. Yeah. Christian Lorenz says, "Baby Chino asking to join pre-fight commentary." I think so. Randy says, "I agree." At Luis Enrique, I don't know what you agree with, but yeah. Randy says, "Do you prefer to work with fighters that are already at the top or up and coming?" Um, it's just all the same, because like, not all the same. I mean, it's a much of a muchness, because the fighters that are up and coming are going to be at the top, and so you're probably going to work with them at the top. They come with different challenges. It comes with different. There's a lot of change that occurs, right? When you're taking not just fighters, like athletes as well. I've worked with. It's only like through this that people know me as like with working with fighters, but I've worked mainly. What I do is work with athletes. Um, or even in corporate, like as when someone's coming up and then they make it in whatever field you want to call it, like things change, man. The people around them change. The they change. Like there's all these, and I think I find it fascinating, and I love it. Like all the challenges that come with it. So but let's say a fighter, as you got a fighter and they're coming through, at first they might not be listening to you, they might not know, da, 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 and then they start to buy into what you're saying or what you and your team are saying, and then it starts to go, you know what I mean? But as that's starting to go and you're starting to build momentum, or you're working with a person that's playing rugby league or basketball or whatever, and they're starting to cement their position in the team, they're starting to win, they're starting to get, all the things, the ducks are starting to line up in a row and things are going cool, blah, 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 blah. They start to change. You start to change. The people around them start to change. And all these new challenges start to come, So going back to the TJ Dillashaw thing and that's why at some point the chemistry changes, and not always is it gonna keep working out. Man, people get divorced, wives and husbands get divorced. So when you ask me, do I like working with fighters that are already at the top or up and coming? It just depends. It just has different challenges, and it's so dynamic and ever changing. The opportunities that start to hit, you watch it change before your eyes, because the opportunities start to come for the fighters that are coming up, that are doing well, and the people around them change. And it might be the same people, but the same people change. So yeah, it's just interesting, man. I don't prefer either one of them. I guess if you're asking me, I'd rather just work with someone up and coming, get them to the top, and then I'm happy to keep working with them. Working with someone that's already established is a little bit harder, because they already have their team, they already have what they're doing. You're going to play a very bit role in it. So sometimes it's good. Like when I worked with Alex Volkanovski for 8 weeks, Joe Lopez, his coach, rang me and said, "Okay, can you come in and work with us for 8 weeks?" for a little bit, and it was very specific. I went there twice a week and worked on some things with them, and that was it, and that was cool. There was a start, there was a finish, there was a thing, but the role was minute, and that's what it was. Uh, and they're already established. They don't need me for anything. You know what I mean? They got a great team, so that's that. I and for what it was worth, that was fun, and I liked it. And I like Alex a lot. I always go for him. When you're working with up and coming guys, that's cool as well. That's got its own challenges, but that's a lot of fun. So yeah, I like it all. Luis Enrique says we love you, Fab, and I love you guys because you guys are the show. Without you guys, there is no show. So thank you very much. Handsome Fat Boy says, I've been watching Khabib's cousin Umar Nurmagomedov fight for some time and he can bang. Do you think Sean and Maley should fight him before any of them get ranked soon? Yes, I'd like to see the fight. Um, yeah. I mean, yes, that would be an interesting fight. I think the thing is with Sean, he's getting into a position where he has to fight ranked guys like Rob Font, right, or someone like that. That's going to be interesting. Him fighting people that are unranked, it just keeps going back to the same conversation. Is like what I've said before. Yeah, all right, cool. When he fought the last fight, he fought against Chris, like great. It was a great performance, but I already know you can do that. Like I already know you can. So he runs a risk of fighting an unranked guy, losing, and a lot of that hype goes away. Or fighting an unranked guy, beating him, and then people going, well, fuck, yeah, I already know you can do that. Fighting Rob Font, though, if he does that to Rob Font, then you're like, okay, cool. Nah, this guy's he's there. He can win the title. This fight against Rob Font is going to answer a lot of questions. A lot of questions. Um, Mixed Partial Fight says, I just came back from the strip club, laugh out loud. They're back open here. Where are you, Mixed Partial Fights? I know you told me before, but where are you? Quite a nice blown out. It's time to watch some Fair One podcast. Sorry for my honesty. What's up, Fab? I appreciate your honesty, sir. Thank you very much. You're a champion. Thank you very much. Marshall Smarter says, did you watch the Who's Number One? I did not, my friend. Mixed Partial Fart says, it's 3:15 a.m. here. Haha, I'm turned. Chris Laurent says, are you looking forward to Australia shining in the Olympics? You know what, dude? I'll tell you something. I'll watch the Olympics, or maybe I want to do some of the commentary for the boxing, maybe for the judo and the wrestling and the taekwondo. I want to see how that plays out here and if I can catch it, on TV properly and blah 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 blah. Because I don't want to get up at 2 a.m. for it. But knowing what I know about drugs in sport and about a whole bunch of other shit, like I like it for the spectacle that what it is, but they kill the innocents, mate. They killed the boy. They really, really killed the boy. So yeah, Brad Galea, Isaac Thompson. That's his name. That's it, man. I knew it was Thompson. I said that right. Isaac Thompson is one of the kids that we're talking about being. The people asking is he how good are they? He's very fucking good. Another guy, but he's doing very well in boxing. But who started off doing MMA stuff is Isaac Hardman. If he decides to go over to MMA, he'll do very fucking well. Isaac Hardman as well, and Isaac Thompson. Omar A says, laughing about ass off at mixed martial art. Eda says, how do they test you? What do you mean? With drugs, blood and urine, depending on the test. But usually urine. It's not just that, dude. Like I've said it too many times already on on too many podcasts. Martovi says, hey Fab, looking good as always. Was just about to do some light weights. Do them, man. Do them. Have the podcast on in the background. Do your weights. Best thing you can do. Which reminds me. Sorry, just a second. It reminds me to put that up. I always forget to do that. Um, um, Let me see. Sorry, I skipped a few people. Okay, mixed partial fight says PEDs are rampant. I think the Diaz brothers are right. It's just a part of fighting, unfortunately, at the high levels. USADA's tests are way more stricter than WADA. They used to use WADA before. Now it's USADA. Man, the tests are a fucking joke. I'm telling you, they're not hard to beat. They're they're always going to be behind the testers, and the always going to be behind the cheaters. But the reality is, dude, do you really think that people want to catch them? Do you think that they want you to run a slower 100 meters? Do you think they want to have less NBA games? Do you think they want to have less Champions League games? No. Do you know what I mean? Um, sorry, I might miss a few. Hey Fab, how do you start a test you and how can you cheat the test? One of the real simple things is, man, you get three tests, you get three fouls, let's call them, in a year. Real simple one. And you can take shit that clears your system in 24 hours. So for example, you come to get tested here with me, you're training with me. The USADA guy comes to the door, goes, yeah, I'm here to test for Jimmy. And I say, oh, Jimmy Thompson's not here. He's no, but you put it in the whereabouts. He said he was going to be here. I said, fuck, he's not here. What do you want me to do? We saw him walk in the door. I said, no, it wasn't him. It was his brother. I don't know. Is Jimmy here? No, he's not here. That's it. He's not here. That is it's one mark against you, but it's not a positive test. You don't get fined. You don't get fined. You don't get suspended. You don't anything. Your whatever you took can clear in 24 hours. Lay low for the next 24 hours. They come and they test you, or the next week, or whenever they test you, and you do your test. So it's not that like that. It's even like that's not that hard to test, to fail, to dodge the test. That's just one real simple thing. Then, I don't want to keep going because I say this every single podcast just about. NG says, do you think Jimmy Crute can make middleweight? No. Is Jimmy Frame more suited for a smaller weight class than light heavyweight? No, man. Jimmy, he was on our podcast. He's a big guy, man. He's got like big fucking hands, big head, like a big giant head. He's built like a giant baby, like he's not a small light heavyweight at all. He's very, very thick kind of person. His build is completely different. Like he's not tall for a light heavyweight, but he's real thick, real like a big head, big hands, real thick dude, like thick boned. Marshall Smarter says, those beastly circuits you set me up with are ridiculously hard. I've lifted a long time and these are crazy. It's shit. Those lifts, Marshall Smartest did some training, so that www.askcoachfab.com, Marshall Smartest was a client on it. I'm not going to talk too much about it. Marshall Smartest is up to you, like due to confidentiality. But yeah, we just hit me up with some strength and conditioning stuff that put some programs together for him. And yeah, the kind of metabolic gains you get from that, and like changes to your body composition, you're going to find, I think, to be quite pronounced. I think even a relatively short amount of time in the next 6 to 8 weeks. You don't have to do those workouts more than 2 to 3 times a week. I think we programmed for 3, but I think 2 will be, even if you go down to 2, you'll be fine. Bearing in mind if you're doing your yoga and all those other things that we discussed. But yeah, that kind of training, man, it's not fun at all. I credit Ashley Jones for that. Guru in strength and conditioning, absolute gun. But yeah, man, I want to have him on the podcast as well. Marshall Smartest, the guy that came up with all of that. But yeah, they're hard, man. They're real fucking hard. I try and do a version of them now, twice a week, 3 times a week. But it's much tamer than what you're doing. Ballon Brown says, Etta Hazard, have a look at more plates, more dates. He talks about ways fighters get around the USADA testing. Yeah, another one that I say to people, so that one that I said there should give you already an understanding of how many loopholes there are and how, like, it's not thing. Another thing is they test you like with like under an auspice. So it's not, for example, if we're here in Australia, it's not USADA. That USADA don't get on a plane and fly out here. They do it. ASADA, the Australian body comes out and tests you as like under like an auspice kind of thing for USADA. If you're training somewhere, and you can fill in the blanks. If you're training somewhere where, and you can look this up, train somewhere where the average income is $100 a month, $100 Australia, $100 US a month, right? You might be training somewhere like that, right? When they come to test you, it's not USADA that comes to test you, it's their governing body, and the people that are coming out to test you might be on $100 a month, $200 a month. Let's say they're on $500 a month. Think of how much money that is compared to what some of these fighters are making. I'm going to leave that there for you. Martovi says, not only was Tai going to play in a real, he was going to play for a club that's in the upper echelon of the teams. Yes, he was. He was going to play for the Roosters, and he was like groomed and handpicked very, very, very early on, as a kid. So yeah, he's super, super, super gifted. Marshall Part says, Jimmy Crute dropping down to 185 would be tough, I think. And 185 is a big difference. 20 pounds a lot for just one weight class jump. Dude, I'm telling you now, Jimmy Crute is not making 185. He's not making 185. He was on our podcast and we spoke about it. He's not, like, his head is like, like an Easter Island head. Like his head's like a block. Like I've got a little tiny pea head, and which I find greatly offensive when Conor McGregor calls Dustin Poirier pea head, because I know deep down when he says that in here, I kind of go like I feel it a little bit, because Dustin hasn't got a pea head. I have a bit of a pea head, and Jimmy's head's like this, man. Like it's much bigger than mine. Like his hands are big. His fingers are like two of my fingers. He's a big, thick dude. He's just not tall, and he hasn't got like long arms. Like I've got longer arms than him and that, but he's built like a fucking truck. Just thick. Pig Thug says, God damn, you're so sexy. Joe Schmo says, evening, gentlemen's. Evening. There are some ladies here. I know this for a fact. Ewan Ferguson says, hope all is well, Fab. I'm going to crash to this episode. Have a good night, all. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. NG says, at Mixed Martial Parts, I tend to agree, but heard that Jimmy doesn't cut much weight. He just seems way smaller than people like Jan, OSP, Reyes, Johnny Walker, etc. He's not, man. He's not small. I'm telling you, he's not small. Marshall Smarter says, what body fat percentage do you consider lean? For who? For an athlete, or for gen pop, or which what percentage, and in competition are we talking about, et cetera, et cetera. Christian Lorenz says, TJ has been caught exchanging, most notably in exchanges against Dodson, in an exchange against Cody, the first time in an exchange. Instead of a punch, I see a knee catching TJ in exchange with Corey. Could definitely be. And he kind of darts in to do that, and Corey might be able to do it. It just depends if you can get Corey moving back, is one of those things, If you can get him kind of moving back, it's going to be harder for Corey to kick, but Corey's smart, man. We'll see. Hyena95 says, can't believe it's now winter in Australia. Yes, sir, and it's cold. For me, it's cold. Christian Lorenz says, can you agree that TJ has been a snake in the grass, Fab? What? I don't understand why he's been a snake in the grass. I don't know. And to be honest with you, I don't know what transpired between them. Marshall Smarter says, they still use Ludwig's drills at Alpha Male, by the way, from someone who trains there, even though they hate the idea of the guy. Laugh out loud. Yeah, I mean, that happens all the fucking time. You know what I mean? Happens all the time. Christian Lorenz says, the wallaby will be immune to snakes in the grass worldwide in the very near future. Possibly. Pig Thug says, you're a sex symbol in Cali. No lie. I can only imagine, mate. I can only imagine. Christian Lorenz says, there are 6 Aussie fighters competing in boxing in the Olympics, Fab. Yeah, I know, man. I know. Hey, Fab, I'm interested in hearing why you and Rob parted ways. I mean, dude, I got no problems going through it real quick. But it's kind of been done to death. It was just business thing. This is now it's going now back 2 years ago almost, or a year and a half now probably. Just we wanted to do different things. Like I had a daughter. I'm 41 years old now. Um, so it was my first daughter. She's a year and a half old now. I wanted to concentrate on that. I didn't want to be flying all over the world, at least not for the next 3, 4, 5 years. I don't want to be. Um, I didn't want to keep running the gyms. So we had 2 gyms together and a third person, and I didn't want to keep running the gyms. Like I said, things change as well. Like it wasn't, things change, people change, new people come into the picture, other people leave, and this and that. And some things weren't the same anymore, and I wanted to do different things. I want to finish my master's at university. And it wasn't anything more than that, it wasn't anything more than that. And now, well, like I said, I'm 41 and now I'm having kids in my life, and I want to enjoy that time and be able to spend, I saved up a bit of money, not a lot of money, but a little bit by my standards, to give me enough time to, at least spend these couple of years, these next 2, 3 years, um, very much involved with now my daughters, my plural daughters. That's my second one's going to be born in December, and I want to be around and be able to hang out and do the stuff that I'm doing. So even with the guys that I'm working with now, it's very like around my daughter's schedule, like um I put my daughter to bed every night. My wife does stuff around the house, but every night I bathe her, put her to bed, change her nappy, da 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 da, and then every morning I get up with her and we go for a walk. Now she's getting a little bit older, year and a half. We go for a walk, we play tips, we play chasings, we do all of that stuff until about 10. And then that's when I train people and I'll go do whatever I have to do. And I do some other work. I come home and then around 5 p.m., like now today is an anomaly, but usually around 5 p.m. I'll start the whole night routine with my daughter. And like now, usually we'd be having dinner and just winding things up. And that's what we'll do today. She'll just go to bed a little bit later. So, I just wanted to do all that kind of stuff, because I didn't have kids until later. So that's for me the one of the major reasons why I didn't want to work how I was working as well. So for me, it's more that. So I sold the gyms to Rob and to another business partner, and then it is what it is. Then once you do that as well, you just there's life outside. Like for me, and I'm not trying to be rude or whatever, but like there's other things in life. Like it's not just like it's all good. You know what I mean? Like there's other stuff to do. Christian Lorenz says David Nyaka, the young heavyweight savage. Yes, man, monster. He's the only boxer representing New Zealand in the Olympics. Good boxer too, that kid. Marshall Smarter says the boy became man, and man must face realities. Yes, sir. 100%. Christian Lorenz says, have you seen the Icarus documentary? Not all of it. I've seen a little bit of it, but I honestly, like, it's one of those things where I've been in it a lot. Some of the shit I can't even tell you what I've seen. Like, and who I've dealt with and how blatantly I've seen some stuff. So it's kind of one of those things that it's almost like I can't watch it. Mixed Partial Fart says, by the way, Fab, to answer your earlier question, I'm from Toronto, Canada. Thank God we opened up finally. Hope you guys are open as well soon. Man, like, fuck. Hey, I have a question for you guys, people that are from cold places. Remember, I've always talk about this. We almost moved to Chicago at one stage. I had like a job opportunity thing, etc. Doesn't matter. But we were talking about, imagine we were in Chicago. How do you guys deal, not just Chicago, it could be Toronto, it could be somewhere else, but how do you guys deal with a lockdown where you can't go out, you can't do anything, but it's in the middle of winter, so you're stuck inside an apartment or something, like completely stuck and isolated. You can't have people over and all of that. Can somebody tell me in the comments how you deal with that? Because we always freak out about that. Because it's winter here, but we can still go outside. But a Chicago winter is like minus 30 degrees or something. So somebody tell me how that goes. One funky dealer says him equals him, everyone, even myself. All right. T-Ball Paul says, do you know the exact moment when a fighter becomes chinny? This could be fighters you've worked with or not. Here's the thing with becoming chinny. A lot of the times, it's not just the chin itself, like that is makes you more susceptible to getting hit. What happens a lot of the times is, we were talking about earlier how the components of fitness, you slow down, you speed, reflexes, they're the stuff that goes first, like your reaction time, your speed, like that thing that goes first. When that goes, your confidence as well starts to go. And only the fighter knows it's almost imperceptible. It happens almost before they know it's happened. And also, if you've taken trauma, that affects all the other stuff that I just mentioned. That affects your reaction time, etc. If you've taken brain trauma already. So sometimes it's not your actual chin, the structure of your chin. You're just not. If you're a fighter that, say, a guy like TJ is a good example. You're a guy that works on reflexes. You're on your timing, on your watching. That's what his bread and butter is. His timing, his ability to dart in and out. The even then he's been caught at his peak. The margin of error, that sweet spot, is getting smaller and smaller the older you're getting. So your chin might be fine, dude, but you're just not getting out of the way of those shots by that millisecond. When you're rolling with a shot, because you can get hit. Dustin Poirier does this. Dustin gets hit and he rolls with it. Good boxers will do that. They get hit, but they roll with the shot, so it takes some of that off them. But you're rolling just that little bit too late. You're moving just that little bit too late, so you start getting caught. So it's more that it's not. I don't necessarily see it as like, hey, that guy can take a shot now he can't. You don't want. I'm actually talking to a fighter now at the moment that can take a shot real well, and they're coming up. They're pretty not known, but I'm not going to put them out there. And I'm like, dude, why the fuck do you even know you have a good chin? You know what I mean? You shouldn't even know you have a good chin. You shouldn't be getting hit like that. It shouldn't be something that you're proud of. So yeah, you kind of start to see, in my opinion, dudes, they're just that little bit slower getting out of the way. Ursel says, haha, let's go mixed partial fasters here. What's your Hail Mary parlay for the weekend? Marshall Farts says, agreed. It's all about knowing the right doctor that can flush it out of your system or provide the right blockers so it doesn't come up on the test. That's what I heard, at least. Not sure how accurate it is. True. It is true because there's shit that leaves your body quick. You can microdose and it leaves your body quick. And if I know this, and I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, I don't even know what the people that, like your Victor Contes and whatnot, that kind of person knows. You know what I mean? Like the stuff that they know. I'll tell you something else, how sensitive the test is. If you drink a lot of water, right, you'll piss clear. That's it. Like that's as simple as that. That you are too, your urine is too diluted for. And I've been with people when they take the test when this has happened. By the way, not that they were on drugs, but just like they were too hydrated. Your piss is too clear. They can't take the sample. So what they have to do is stay with you until you can provide a sample, right? But if they come to test you on the day of the fight, right, and you just super hydrated and you piss clear and you piss clear and you piss clear, what are they going to do? Are they going to say, hey, Dana, we're not going to have the fight until this guy pisses with the right color? And you're like, no, dude, I'm fighting. Go sort that out with whoever you think. I'm going to keep drinking. You work it out, man. I'm going to keep drinking. And piss keeps coming clear. When you have to fight, they have to fuck off. They're going to let you fight. The second thing is when you get out of the ring, if they come to test you and you say, no, I'm going to the hospital. I'm in the hospital. I got my brain's all fucked up. I took some bombs in there. You now go to the hospital, right? Because that takes precedent over everything. That's most important, like your health. They can't stop you going to the hospital and make you test. I've seen this, by the way. This is not all a hearsay. You go to the hospital. Once you go to hospital, your records now become confidential. They pump you with drugs. They pump you with painkillers. They pump you with whatever. What test are they going to take? Even if you said, yeah, boys, he test me now, you've just taken a whole bunch of shit. It doesn't matter. Plus, your records become confidential. I've seen this, by the way. I've seen this. Not I'm making it up. Need more meds, says my mate is Jimmy Thompson. He's never taken EPO. Tell him I'm sorry, man. You're going to be watching BKFC? Sometimes I do, man. It's just hard to get on it and watch it. But yes, Mixed Partial Fight says, ha ha ha, my parlay is Miranda Maverick and Kyla to win their fights. All right. Kyla goes to decision. Miranda finishes Macy Barber. I'm staying away from the main event. Smart to stay away from the main event. I tell you, that one's a hard one to pick, man, because I think, like I said, I think TJ is too much of an enigma coming off 2 years. Marshall Smarter says, let me just say it was legit for anyone interested. Thank you very much, man. Marshall Smart says, fuck Ashley Jones. Fuck him indeed. Justin Vijayka says, dude, love you in the Dodgeball movie. That hurts, mate. That hurts. Ursel says, hey, coach, would Whittaker do well against Usman, and how would it play out in your opinion? I just think the two worst matchups for Usman at middleweight are Israel and Rob. You know, they're fluid, fast strikers, which Usman is not. And they're very good anti-grapplers. You know, they're not. These guys are not guys that get held up against a cage, et cetera, and they're used to defending that against much bigger guys, you know. And Usman's game is that. I think Usman loses a mechanical advantage going up to middleweight that he enjoys at welterweight. I've seen him in real life. I've seen him standing right next to Rob, and he's not as big as them. You know, he's a big guy, but he's not. He's good size for a welterweight. He's a good bigger welterweight. You know, at middleweight, he's not a fast guy. You see, and so the guys that are champions right now at middleweight, and even Anderson as well, they're guys that are fast. They're guys that with good striking, good reflexes, big guys as well. Anderson's a big guy. Hard. Usman's not going to be able to do what he does at welterweight to them at middleweight, you know? So I see, and he's not, he hasn't got the same kind of movement, fast angle changes and whatnot that Rob and Israel do. Marshall Smarter says, so Dagestani testing is going to be interesting. I'm not calling any place out in particular. I know this. I've been to places, you know, I've seen how a lot of the tests work. I've been with national teams. I've been with all that kind of stuff. I've worked with people that work with national teams, and yeah, I've seen it. You know what I mean? Marshall Smarter says, only us P heads can call us P heads. That's right, sir. That's right. Ursel says, mixed partial fights, good one. I'm new to MMA, betting, still practicing proper bankroll management. If you want a proper bankroll management, don't bet. I'm just missing a few here, guys. Jackson says, you own a gym fab? I do not. I don't at the moment. No. I did, but I don't anymore. I will probably open up a small gym at some point, but right now I do not. JLA says, what did you teach at TAFE? Sport and fitness. What type of empanada do you like? I like beef. They're just the normal beef ones with olives, or chicken ones, normal chicken ones with olives. Justin says, can you give us 3 underdog fighters you see winning this weekend? I can't tell you who's going to win, but like I spoke about earlier, and I'll just bring it up now so that I can think. I'll tell you which fights to watch and why. Which I will start it early because of these guys. The Imavov fight, definitely a fight to watch, because I do believe those. So Imavov is fighting, Nasruddin Imavov is fighting Ian Heinisch. Imavov had a great fight with Phil Hawes. You know, Phil Hawes came out, like I said earlier at the start of the podcast. That fight with Phil Hawes was how I thought the Jacob and Phil Hawes fight would go, you know. But Jacob got caught, you know, so you didn't get to see that. I thought that Imavov was probably going to come on late and beat Phil Hawes, but Phil Hawes toughed it out and stayed in there and won. But it was ugly for Phil Hawes towards the end. You know, he got banged up a little bit by Imavov. How much Imavov learned from that fight, I don't know. I think he's got a lot of potential. Does he upset Ian Heinisch? I don't know. If he does beat Ian Heinisch, though, you have yourselves an interesting up-and-coming guy, because depends how he beats Ian Heinisch, you know. Phil Hawes looks to me like nobody is going to beat him in 5 minutes. Like he's going to beat most people over 5 minutes. Um, he does tend to slow down a little bit. That's that's how. Fuck, I forgot his name again. I don't know what's wrong with me. I usually am so good with the Cuban guy, Julian Marquez. Julian Marquez beat him as well. Same thing. Julian Marquez is a diesel engine, and he's able to outlast just about anyone in that division. That makes him very, very interesting. Very hard guy to beat. Big, strong guy with a great gas tank. So one of the fights to watch, I can't tell you who's the underdog is going to win or whatnot, but it's definitely Nasruddin Imavov versus Ian Heinisch. Got to watch that fight. That fight is going to be either the changing of the guard or Ian Heinisch sending Imavov back down. Interesting fight. I don't know that Ian Heinisch has the stand-up to deal with Imavov. I don't know. This is going to be an interesting fight. There might be a bit of a changing of the guard and some much needed new blood going into the middleweight division. And the other one, again, is Punahele Soriano versus Brendan Allen, the last fight of the prelims, simply because, again, are we going to see the coming of age, if you will, of a new middleweight coming into the middleweight division against someone like Brendan Allen, who's a veteran, who's, I don't know, unbeaten in like 8 fights, except for his loss against Sean Strickland, Sean Strickland is no joke. They both got wins over Tom Breese, I think, who's very good, man. He's very good. So those are 2 fights to watch that I can honestly tell you are the ones that interest me the most. Then Randy Costa and Adrian Yanez, that's an interesting fight to watch. I don't know too much about that, but those first 2, I think, watch those 2 fights because you could be looking at the changing of the guard or, some much needed new blood. Maybe. All the veterans will hold on. Stainless Stove says, "Hey Fab, always a nice surprise again to see you're the sexiest dad streaming. No homo. Get some Jaffa ice cream on me. I need you to watch some Eric Andre videos right now." Thank you so much, Stainless Stove. I appreciate it. I will watch some Eric Andre videos. I don't know exactly what that means, but I'll do my best. And I really appreciate it, man. I think that's, man, I'm really, really thankful. Honestly, guys, like everyone supports, just being on the chat, just watching the show is a massive support. But and I really appreciate the people that support financially. It's massive, man. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Suyab says TJ was a Division 1 wrestler, but mostly strikes in MMA. Can you see him using a wrestling heavy game plan? TJ wrestles when he needs to wrestle, and he's very effective at it. So I don't know if he's going to come in there and with a wrestling heavy game plan. When I've seen TJ wrestle, though, he is very effective, man. He's very smart, very skillful fighter. And yeah, man, I just think that no, I don't see him like going out there trying to like spam. The thing is, you got to understand, wrestling someone in MMA is fucking tiring. It's excruciatingly tiring. It's not that simple. Like you take someone down and they get up, you're in trouble. You like 1 or 2 times you do that, it's hard on you, very hard on your body. Probably the thing that takes the most energy is a blast double. But he can upset the rhythm and the timing of Sanhagen by taking him down a couple of times. Joe Schmo says, "You reckon Paulo Costa lives near a shitty USADA clinic?" Well, he wouldn't. In fairness, like I'm not saying Paulo Costa is on drugs or anything like that. I don't know. But he wouldn't live near a USADA clinic because he lives in the US. I mean, he doesn't live in the US, lives in Brazil. So he'd live next to the Brazilian drug clinic, whatever it is. Henry Down says, "Nice one, coach." Thank you, sir. Jackson says, "I think he will attempt to grapple, but I think Sanhagen is so driven that he will come out on top." We'll see, man. We'll see. MMA Prognosa says, "And what TJ is going to do if he wrestles? Absolutely nothing." Well, I think that the wrestling, like I said, it's not just the fact of him doing something amazing. It's just like that disrupts in and of itself disrupts your stand up if you have to start being careful of the takedown. And he does have good ground and pound. Jackson, I agree with you. Stainless Stove says, What's it like being higher than McGregor on Forbes Sexiest Men? I wasn't aware. Thank you. Ursel says TJ has that stutter step takedown like he did against Lineker. That fight was so beautiful to watch. Yeah, man, he's good, man. Ursel says I'm from Denmark and it's hot here, coach. Man, it's cold here. It's cold here at the moment. It's cold here. That Denmark is on one of my to go to places. Luis Enrique says I think TJ comes out with a wrestling based ground and pound game plan. Could be interesting. Could be. I'm just going to skip a couple here. Mixed Partial Fight says in Toronto, which is much colder than Chicago, we just layer up in jackets and go hang out outside. We literally embrace the cold here in Canada. It doesn't stop us from heading out. But I must admit, lockdown in winter here was tough this past year. A lot of loneliness, to be quite honest. Just got to make the most of it. Go sledding in the snow and then hot chocolate and a movie at home every night. Yeah, that's interesting what you say about hanging out and going out outside anyways and embracing the cold. I can see that. Where my wife's from, like my wife's from here, from Australia, but her family is from Inner Mongolia. They're from Inner Mongolia. They're like on the triple border of Mongolia, Russia, and China. So they're like a weird like mix, not a weird mix, a good mix of people. And they're saying like it's like minus 30, minus 40 degrees Celsius, you know, and I just cannot fathom. Like my wife's been there, she's gone back and visited her family, and she's like not going back there in winter. I want to go, like I kind of want to go, I kind of embrace it, like you said, like that. I want to see it. I've been in Sweden and it was minus 10, minus 12 in Stockholm, and that was fucking cold for me. That was like really, really cold. Then I went to, and I'm sorry for all my Scandinavian friends if I mess up these names. My family in Sweden, I've got Swedish family, believe it or not, are in Nyköping and Uppsala. And I went to both of those places in winter and it was so cold. But it wasn't minus 30 or minus 40, crazy cold like that. I can only imagine the loneliness that would have occurred in those cold ass places during lockdown, you know, and I feel for all you guys that went through it, you know, and it was just interesting how people were getting through it and whatnot. And yeah, I just it's crazy. Um, Marshall Smarter says, act like outside does not exist. Someone can go for groceries, essential workers can work, everyone else is on government payouts. Do your masters, be an essential worker, be designated grocer. Fair enough. Sanhagen, Luis Enrique says, Sanhagen is going to be ready with the knees and uppercuts. This fight is going to be amazing. I think so. Are you? Someone can go for groceries. Essential workers can work. That's Marshall Smartest saying. Oh, I see what you mean, Marshall Smartest. I read what from the perspective that you were saying it. Henry Downs says, getting Corey to the ground though. Corey takes it by KO, in my opinion. Could be, man. Could be. I don't know. Against the Fence says, great podcast. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate it. Mixed Partial Fight says, basically, winter lockdown is a time to catch up on movies, TV shows, etc. Just keep yourself distracted and head out for a quick 10-minute walks in the cold every few hours. Wow. Ethiopian Phenomenon says, are you Whitaker's coach? No, I was, but I'm not anymore. I don't work with Rob anymore. Henry Downs says, was. Christian Lorenz says, an iron chin can become a glass jaw overnight via KO. Man, you just stop getting out of the way of shots, you know, like um and one day you're just not getting out of the way of the shots and they're just like that, you know. You just start getting caught a little bit. um I think Anderson Silva's a real good example of it. He was a guy that looked like he just couldn't get knocked out, like that he couldn't even get fucking dropped. Um, Not only did he have the head movement and the vision and all of that, but when he did get hit, it looked like he just couldn't get hit. Just he had an iron chin. Not only did he have an iron chin, but he could roll with the shots, you know. But then, like, he got caught by Weidman. Whichever way, you can say, oh, he was clowning and that. That wasn't the first time he did that. He got caught by Weidman. He got, you know, he's been dropped after that, and da 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 da. And then he just saw it go, you know. Mason Klatt says, Rob on the source confirmed. Fab just won't say it because he's a good guy. He's one guy I can honestly tell you is not on the gear. I can tell you that. I'm going to Christian Lorenz says, if Rob wins the belt the second time, should he embrace his inner Mike Tyson and buy a tiger? Dude, we can't even have a dogo here in Australia. We live on an island. It's so like we strict with everything, you know, and so it should be. It is an island. Okay. Mikey B says, who do you think you would look like if your glasses frames were white? I don't know. I don't even get the joke. Henry Down says, enigma as it relates to fight time, Corey versus TJ. I think it isn't a bit of an enigma, just in the fact that I haven't seen TJ for a couple of years, you know, so it's different. Christian Lorenz says, Anderson may box Logan in Abu Dhabi come September. Just keep it coming, boys. Just keep it coming. Big Davy Joyce says, sorry if you've already answered this one, but how did you decide on the fair one as a new name? Because the fair one is like it's an American term to have the fair one, to have a fair fight. And since it's a fight podcast, I thought, and we try to be fair on this podcast and try and be objective. So yeah, I don't know, man. Like questions, Kuno. I don't know the coaching things with Rob and whatnot. I have no idea. Mikey B says, hit that like button, guys. Connor says, Fab, do you prefer training wrestling or BJJ? I can't really do either one of them. I like wrestling way more than BJJ. But in fairness, I like when you do like submission wrestling. I like that the most out of both BJJ and wrestling. But wrestling, man, like you can break someone physically with wrestling, just break them, you know, just by imposing your sheer will and work on them, you know, and it doesn't have to be pretty. You might not even get a takedown on someone in a fight, but you've just like you've worn them down with your pressure, with the isometric contractions, their arms, their thing, their blah, blah, blah. I don't also make a massive distinction between the two because I think that if you can't wrestle standing up, and you and also or you can't submit someone on the ground. So if you're a wrestler and you know no submissions, I think you're kidding yourself. It's like you should know how to submit people, you know, from a self-defense perspective. I'm talking about and if you're a jiu-jitsu guy and you can't wrestle people and you can only pull guard, you're kind of kidding yourself as well, you know. Like so I like to do both. That's just me. We Are Live says top-notch analysis here, Fab. Thank you very much, man. I really appreciate it. Sorry, Christian Lawrence says, so Solly went to jail for blasting a bloke with a right hand at a pub. Ty will get arrested on the Vegas Strip with a shoe in his hand and heavyweight belt around his waist. Could be. Sosoli, man, it's sad what happened to Sosoli, man. It was actually pretty sad. And Sosoli is actually like, man, he's like a good dude, man. He's like I like, you know, he was at the fights. He was in Vegas with us, you know, when he was on the other team. We weren't able to get him on time. I picked Juan over him, unfortunately. Just a second, guys. Just a second. Bye. I picked Juan over him, unfortunately, because I went Anderson, Juan, and because I knew I wanted to get the best striker on there with Juan being the best grappler, you know. So I thought we'd have the two best strikers, the best grappler, and then I wanted Sosoli because he was Australian, but they picked Sosoli first, so I picked Michel with our third pick. But yeah, it's a shame, man, and I would not want to be hit of fucking Ben Sosoli. I tell you now. Christian Lorenz says Punahele has massive power. He does, man. He really does. Randy Costa versus Yanis is going to be fire. I agree with you, Luis Enrique. I think that one's going to be crazy as well. Those three fights I'm actually really interested in seeing. But the two middleweight fights coming up, I think that's going to be real good. Usman is not necessarily the fastest guy in welterweight. He's definitely not the fastest guy at welterweight, but he's big and he's strong and he can push people up against the cage to mitigate that size, the speed. Him going up with that extra weight could work against him, I think, because most middleweight fighters fight at 200 pounds. They would be much faster. Yeah, they fight at least at 200 pounds, at least going into the cage. Luis Enriquez, Kyler Phillips, Tame Impala's front man. I don't know what that means. Yugen Zek says, cheese from Croatia. Right back at you, sir. Kakosi. I don't know. Is that Croatian? Is that right? Joe Schmo says, that's what I meant. He lives in Brazil. Now, I know what you meant, you horrible man, Joe Schmo. Salah Ahmed says, hey, Fab, wonder if you could do a quick breakdown for Jans versus Randy Costa. Man, from what I know, right, this one's a little bit, again, like Jans is one of those dudes, right, that I haven't seen enough of as against the top of the top, you know, to be able to give a proper how could I say, a proper assessment of him. I've seen him; he has really good hands. He's got really good timing. But I see Costa's being a little bit more well-rounded. You know, like from what I've seen, you know, it's one of those things. Like I haven't seen him against upper echelon competition to be able to give proper, like a proper breakdown. You know, of what I see, because you can look really good. So far, what I've seen of Jens is he's got really good boxing. He's got really good timing. He's able to keep people on the end of his punch. He doesn't get overcommitted. He looks the goods. This fight is the one. Sorry, I'm going to be able to do better breakdowns of him after this fight, after Randy Costa's. Randy Costa's got good kickboxing, good wrestling. This fight's going to tell me where Jans is at. You know what I mean? Like I said to you with Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley to me looks good and everything, but I haven't seen him do anything that I didn't think he was already going to do. You know. So yeah, I think Jans might be able to do it, because I think if I had to go into my head pick, because I think Randy Costa is probably a bit more well-rounded, but I think Jans is better at what he does best than what Randy Costa is. Like his hands are good, man. That's my pick. Stainless Stove says, I don't feel you acknowledge your sexiness. Don't put yourself down, Fab. Get in that Borat onesie. I probably will, sir. Luis Enrique says, Sanhagen wins by front kick KO. You've heard it here first, folks. He could do it. Marshall Smarter says, that shit is cold. I've been minus 50 degrees Celsius plus wind chill. That was cold, but Wim Hof that shit, and it's bearable for a minute. In Nova Scotia, it gets to minus 50. Is that what you're saying to me? Because that's fucking cold, man. That is so cold. Oh my God. Stainless Stove says, I see you know what's sexy, Fab. Layers looking warm, nothing hotter. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Stainless Stove says, can't wait to see you get more layers on. Thank you, sir. Pip Dennison says, did you hear Australia beat Argentina 2-0 in soccer at the Olympics? I did not. I didn't even know they'd started, to be honest with you. So the Olympics, we've started. I don't know, man. I don't really follow it that much as I said to you. TJ Dilla Floor said, okay. Henry Down says, nice pick, nice pip. Ethiopian says, are you Polynesian? Also, I've never been to Australia. Where in Aussie land do you recommend visiting? I'm not Polynesian by any stretch of the imagination. My mum and dad are from Uruguay. Also, I've never been to Australia. Where in Aussie land do you recommend visiting? Man, depends what you want to see, but it's got everything here, man. So tell me what you want to see, where you want to go, and I'll point you in the right direction. I should work for Australian tourism. Eric Albarakan. I do know that guy, Mikey B, and actually he's friends of mine. You know what I mean? Hans Yolo says, who you got, Nick versus Lawler? Again, man, I don't know, because I haven't seen Nick fight for too long. It's been way too long. I don't know if he's still got that, you know, but I will say that this to you. Unless Nick has drastically lost his chin, or he hasn't been doing any cardio, if he's even a shadow of that, I see him beating Robbie. Luis Enrique says, amazing podcast, Fab. Thank you, sir. Marshall Smarter says, no, this was the 59th parallel, just below the Arctic Circle. Oh, my God. Have you seen the Northern Lights? Just out of just curiosity, I want to know. Big Davy Joyce says, what happened to the world's most venomous snake, David Roberts? He's probably lurking under a rock somewhere. That's what he's doing. Nah, he's actually pretty cool, man. We don't live near each other at all. We're probably like almost 2 hours apart. At least in heavy traffic, in Sydney traffic, it's not worth even talking about. Probably 3 hours. But he does all the little like meme things, whatever they're called, the fingernails. What are they called? The thumbnails. The thumbnails. Um, Hans Yolo says, "Yep, she gets chilly up here in Canada. That sounds awful, dude. That sounds awful." Ursel says Costa's never been out of the second round. Knocked out Boston Salmon and Journey Newson both in round one. Yarns with a double amounts of fights and wins is going to expose him if he gets there. Yeah, man. Like I said to you, I don't know. I just haven't seen enough of Yarns at the top end competition. You know, I just haven't. Marshall Smarter says Manitoba. I've heard of Manitoba. It has is Manitoba the place that has large Indigenous population in Canada? Am I correct? There's a large Aboriginal communities up there. Marshall Smarter says I haven't, but I have a bucket list to see the natural wonders of the world. I'm planning to see the Aurora Borealis in Norway. Nice, nice. I want to see that too, my friend. I was in Sweden and I didn't go, and that's a big regret that I have. However, there are southern lights that you can see in Tasmania. Here in Australia, you can see them from Tasmania. Eamon Romani says, "Do you think Connor is finished? Define finished, like because Connor's career is real interesting, dude. Like at lightweight, he won the belt, but that's really the other than Donald Cerrone, that's the only fight he's won at lightweight. You know what I mean? And the Diaz fight, you know, like, but the Diaz fight was a close decision. Connor's an amazing showman. I think he's a brilliant featherweight fighter. Never defended the belt at featherweight. I'm not saying he couldn't have defended it, but he's doing things from a different perspective, you know. So is he finished? No, I don't think so, because Connor can fight Dustin Poirier. He's definitely going to fight Dustin again, you know, even though he's 1-2 against him in 3 fights, losing the last 2 by stoppage, whichever way you want to look at it. Both fights ended in the first round. All 3 fights ended in the first round, in fairness. He'll get to fight Dustin again and make a lot of money from it. He will fight, I don't know, one of the Paul brothers and get paid a lot of money for it. He will fight. Fuck it, man. If you pushed for the Charles Oliveira fight, they'd probably give it to him, you know? So, I mean, no, I don't think he's finished at all. I think you're going to see, if he wants to fight, you're going to see him again. Can we get a shout out for my boy Marky B? Fab, you're legend. Marky B, you're the man, you're the champion. Thank you for having your friend TD watch the show. I hope you watch the show. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. Marky B, you're a champion. Luis Enrique says, what you said before was great. You shouldn't even know you have a good chin. It's fucking true, dude. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Marshall Smarter says, correct indeed. I see. Okay. Hans Yolo says, I'm a hop skip away from you, Marshall. Hans Yolo says, Southern Lights. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Marshall Smartest. Yep. Yes, sir. Yeah, you can see him from Tasmania. Wasn't Diaz McGregor at welterweight? Yeah, but there were 2 lightweights fighting at welterweight. You know what I mean? That wasn't really a welterweight fight. Nate Diaz was a lightweight at that time. And at that time, I think when he'd gone up, the only fight that he'd had at that time was Rory McDonald, and Rory McDonald was just ragdolled him in that fight. So at the time, Nate Diaz was a true lightweight. It wasn't a welterweight. They just didn't cut weight, and they both fought at welterweight. Hans Yolo says, how about olives versus hot sauce? I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means at all. Yeah, so McGregor and Thing are really, they were lightweights. I think that McGregor's a fantastic fighter. You know, I think that he's a very, very good fighter. But that doesn't mean that the legions of fans that he has. I think it's an inaccurate representation of who he is. They have him almost at a godlike being of ability. The Hungarian Hustler says, good evening, Fab, and the Fair One family out there. How are you, sir? Thank you so much, man. I really, really appreciate you being here, Hungarian Hustler. Did your kid end up going back to training, or are you guys in lockdown, or what's the go? Hans Yolo says Charlie versus DP. That's going to be that man, when they make that fight happen, I think that's going to be a crazy scrap. I think it's going to be a hard fight for both of those guys, and I'm really interested to see how it happens. I think um, Charles Early or Dustin putting the diesel engine on him, and I think Dustin will win that if it goes down the stretch. Um, but early, dry, throwing shots down down the pipe, and throwing double leg takedowns and going for submissions when they're both dry. Charles Oliveira is a fucking scary man. Yeah, that's Mario. That's what I said. The Nate also fought Rory Markham at welterweight. Yeah, but when he fought Rory McDonald like ragdolled him, and then Nate's real success was always at lightweight until very recently. So Nate wasn't like a true welterweight that Connor fought. He was fighting at lightweight prior to that. Ursel says Connor's legit run was in featherweight, or after that was just theatrics. Beating Eddie Alvarez was great, but never beat any legit contenders. Went away, then came back to only get exposed by the true champ. I think in hindsight that you always see in hindsight, but at the time, the problem is, man, that not the problem. Good for him, but he does get the fights that he wants. You get what I mean? Even the Dustin fight, he got that fight with Dustin after having beat him inside one round. I think he thought that fight would be a good fight for him. But Dustin has improved a whole way. This is not a criticism on Connor, because he's also, in my opinion, in a lot of ways, he's playing chess when a lot of other people are playing checkers, So he's done a lot of good things. Peter, for himself. Peter Spears says, all I know is that Costain Jans is going to be fight of the night. Could well be. I do agree with you. Like I said, I just haven't seen enough of Jans against the top end competition, like against the top, to be able to give a fair assessment. Because, like I said, like Sean O'Malley is probably one of the best examples of it. I think he's very, very good, but I can't tell you how good he is until after this Rob fight. Most of the time what I've seen is what I expected to see, and then what he did, what was expected of him. If he does that to Rob Font, though, I'll be very, very impressed, and then I can give you a proper assessment of him. That's just my opinion on that. But yeah, that's the Hans Yolo says, last question, can Derek Lewis KO Garni for the interim belt? He can certainly KO Garni. That's what he does. He's a fucking KO artist, and he lands big shots, big fucking powerful shots. So can he KO him? Yes. Will he KO him is a different story. Is it possible that he does? Yes. Is it probable? Probably not. I think Garni knows that that's Derek Lewis's way to win. Also, there's a thing like Garni has more ways to win. Cyril has more ways to win. But that doesn't mean that the way that Derek Lewis or Francis Ngannou, for that matter, can win. They were usually only going to win one way, but knocking you into next week. That doesn't mean that that's less effective just because you got more ways to win. Doesn't mean that it's that you're more effective, because the way that they win is very fucking effective. Having said that, I think Garni is well aware that, if he engages with Lewis in close, that's where the problems start for him, and could end. So yes, he can, but I don't know that he will. Garni versus Ngannou is a sick fight, though. Yes. Well, in fairness, Lewis has already beat Ngannou. Lewis has already beaten Ngannou. So let's see how that one goes. You know what I mean? Who knows? Who knows how that fight goes? Because the thing that makes Lewis versus Francis interesting, which is what happened in their first fight, is that Derek has crazy ass power, touch you once, knock you the fuck out power too. And so that starts to create a problem for Francis as well, because Francis can't come into that zone where he's usually like, even when he fought Jairzinho hit him with quite a few combinations, but Francis knew that he had that massive power, you know what I mean? That against Lewis, it's a little bit different for Francis. So that's really interesting for me. Ursel says, if the UFC really believe in you as a future star or something else, they will send you a list with 6 opponents with which to choose from. That's kind of messed up. That's the way of the world, my friend. Eugene says, how come you know a little bit of Croatian? Well, where I grew up, there were a lot of Serbians actually, man, and a lot of Croatians as well. A lot of Croatians, a lot of Serbians. It was a bit of a ethnic melting pot where I grew up. And my first job, actually, Eugene, first job ever, I was 13 years old, was making cevapi. I used to make cevapi like all through school holidays, every weekend, make hundreds of kilos of cevapi for the Serbian club and for the Croatian club, like hundreds of kilos. So I used to work in a Serbian butcher. So that's how my and I've always loved basketball, man, and I always liked basketball like from Europe, and especially like the former Yugoslavia team, the team that had Dino Raja, Vladi Divac, Tony Kukoc, Dragan Petrovic. What a team, eh? The Yugoslavia team. What a team. So I'm a big fan of that. Big fan of Drazen Petrovic. Big fan. JT says, "Hey there, coach. How you doing? Really well, my friend. Really, really, really well." Pat says, "Best MMA podcast. Keep it up, Fab." Thank you, sir. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it, man. You don't understand how much the compliments like that mean to my fragile little fucking ego. You don't understand, man. So thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate the support from all you guys. What it does is huge, man. So thank you so much, man. The Hungarian Hustler says, "Nah, not yet, Fab. The little germ monster is painting quietly on the kitchen bench at the moment." Nice. My one's terrorizing my poor wife. My wife is actually, which I'm really, really pumped to eat, is the shepherd's pie my wife's making. But it's, I think, hey, I'll leave you with the story of the day, right? That I was just talking to my wife about this the other day. I used to work in a place, doesn't matter where I used to work, and we were training people, and I have a bad knee. And you tell me if this is not fucking weird. I'm going to talk to you about this guy who was one of the weirdest fucking guys I've ever fucking met. I hurt myself, right? This guy was a physio. Let's call him a physio, right? I hurt myself. I hurt my knee because, as most of you already know, I have a really bad bung knee. I've always had it. It's gotten progressively worse as I got older, but it was bad even back then. I hurt my knee, and this guy, I was in the staff room, and this guy walks in, and he's a punish. Those guys that are punishers, and I thought, "Oh, fuck, here we go." I had an ice pack on my knee, and he goes, "Hey, man, Fab, I'm going to help you out. I can help you out, da 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 da." And I said to him, "Oh, no, let's call him Tom." I said, "No, hey, Tom, you know what, man? I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm all right." Because I just didn't want to talk to him. My knee was fucked and thing. And he goes, "No, man." He goes, "I can fix you up." He goes, I got these remedies at home, and they can really help you. And I studied this when I did my masters, and da 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 da. And I've always worked in sport. That's how we ended up knowing that. That's why I was in this institute working with this guy. It was the biggest punish I've ever fucking met. And I said, "Oh, are you sure, man?" All right, man, because he seemed real keen to help me. And I said, "All right, man, please go." Like, "No worries, thank you." And he goes, "No worries, Fab. I live around the corner. I'll be back. I've got these remedies." And he comes back, and he put some lamps on my knee. It just fucked around, used me as an experiment for half an hour. And the whole time we're talking, I said, "Look, man, I really appreciate you doing this, and thank you so much, blah, 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 blah." And when he was done, right, mind you, we worked together. I didn't ask him to do anything. When he was done looking at my knee, and he insisted, when he was done, I said, "All right, yeah, thanks, man." And he goes, "You'll feel better in half an hour." Mind you, I did not feel better at all. It made fucking zero difference what he did. He charged me. He goes to me, "That's $30, man." And I paid him just because I don't know. He caught me off guard. And plus, what am I going to do? Argue with this dickhead? I was just sitting there. He caught me in my most vulnerable position. This guy, right? This guy would do shit like he'd come in and tell everyone at work. He'd go, I was driving, and it was like in Australia, Christmas time is crazy. In Sydney is crazy because like the temperatures get to like out west where I lived and where I worked with this guy, 47, 48 degrees. Imagine this: Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Christmas whatever. That leading into Christmas. Anyone that's from Australia will know what I mean. Everyone's crazy. The shops are full, everything. And this guy goes, yes, I was driving last Christmas, and there was a mum, and she had a Tarago there, and she was trying to reverse it in, and she had like 5 kids in the cars, 47 degrees Celsius, which is hot, is 100 and something Fahrenheit. And he goes, and I saw her, and as she was backing up, he goes, I just thought, nah, I'm going to get there first here. So I just drove my car in, and I parked it there behind her. And she started yelling at me, and I said, oh, well, tough shit, first come, first served. Walked in. That's this guy. Another story that this guy had, he told me, was we were there at work once, and I said to him, how'd you meet your wife, Tom? And he said to me, she was at lunch, on a date with my best friend. And by happenstance, I walked into the bar that they were on a date with. And I walked up to him and I said, I saw that she was a good looking girl. And, she's talking to my mate, and my mate's a bit of a dweeb. My best friend's a bit of a dweeb. So I went up to her and I said, what are you doing talking to this dickhead? Why are you talking to this loser? And so he goes, I just kept at him, until my friend got upset and walked off. He goes, and then her and I started talking. This guy's one of the best fucking dudes you can imagine, right? And we were at a staff dinner once, and I saw his wife, and his wife looked way too good looking for him. Way too good fucking looking. Like, she shouldn't have been with him. And she goes to me and my friend, she goes, yes, have you guys ever watched Thor? And I hadn't, and I never have. And I said to her, no, this is at the dinner table, like with a whole staff of people there. And I said to her, no, I haven't. And she goes to me, I love that show. It makes me moist. And me and my friend that were working there, we were like, what the fuck? And then it ended up being that I understood why she was with him, because he was a fucking head case. She was a head case, and it worked out well. So he was like one of the weirdest fucking dudes I ever met, man. And a fucking liar. He told me about, or maybe he was telling the truth. I don't fucking know. But he'd always, because he did Kung Fu, and he'd always tell me about how much of a weapon he was, and how wrestling it's a sport, but it's, he did Kung Fu. And he's not a big guy. He's probably my size. And he'd always tell me about how he bashed Islanders and all this shit. And anyone that grew up around Islanders knows that if if you're a dweeby little fucking dude, you're not going to bash him. Shut up. So please comment on what you think of this guy, because this guy's one of the fucking weirdest guys I've ever met. The Hungarian hustler, blah, blah, Fab, you a forward or a holder, man? Probably maybe a forward. I don't know, because I had a Ford Laser. That was the first car I had. The Hungarian hustler says, the Chavapi are the fucking best. No barbecue is complete without a tray or two of Chavapi. Chavapi are really good, man. Luis Enrique says, was Sanhagen caught cold by Aljo? I think you got to understand, Aljo has some like real good jiu-jitsu, some real good grappling, and his strikes are unorthodox. He throws you off. It's hard to get that timing on him. So no, man, it's not an easy fucking fight for anyone. So I mean, there's no shame in losing to Sterling. Hans Yola says, you the man, 3:30 a.m. He's still listening. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it. Where you at, Hans Yola? Where you at? Sorry, because I get some of the people mixed up sometimes. Hud John sends, I'm back, bro. Hey, was wondering, have you ever watched a Lethwei match? I have. My dad was a Lethwei fighter. Your dad was a Lethwei fighter? Man, Jesus. Fuck. There was one of the girls, Juliana on the show, and she fought Lethwei. It's pretty full on. Hans Yola says, just say the C word. No, I won't, sir. Hans Yola says he's won. Stainless Stove says 47 to 48 degrees doesn't sound hot. Layers, fab layers. Yes, sir. Stainless says, are you hotter with one shirt or t-shirt? Are you hotter with one shirt or 10 shirts on? 10 shirts, sir. 10 shirts. JT says, hey, Fab, have you ever had the Lebanese medicine to fix muscle pain? My mum used to light a small tissue in a glass cup, then place it over my dad's back, and his skin used to rise. I think, JT, I think that's been around for ages. It's like the cupping, the Chinese cupping. Basically, the oxygen gets burnt off in the cup, and it sucks up on the skin. That's why you see the cupping. The people have the cupping on the back. So yeah, I've had Chinese cupping. I've never done that though. Yeah, so let me know what you guys think of that guy. If the guy's a special case. Marshall Smarter says, I thought that was going to be he has a hammer joke. Nah, that guy's just a fucking clown, dude. He's a fucking clown. Hey Fab, did you grow up in the era when your dad used to watch World Championship of Wrestling Mario Marion, the Sheiks, Wadi Ayub, my uncle. I no, I didn't, man. I didn't. I think wrestling was around, but I just never watched it, man. I watched a little bit when I was a little kid, but not much. Um, okay, Canada, Hans Yolo. Fair enough. Davin says, where do you personally rank Islam in the lightweight division? Again, it'll sound funny me saying this about Islam. I haven't seen him do anything that I didn't think he was going to already do. You know, I didn't think he was going to be. I didn't think Moises was going to give him a run. You know, and he like he didn't. You know, like he Moises still impressed me. Don't get me wrong. Moises impressed me still, but everyone expected Islam to win, right? If he fights Dos Anjos, I expect him to win. Um, Dos Anjos hasn't done the best against wrestlers, and he engages in wrestling, so he's very good at out wrestling people that aren't wrestlers, right? But wrestlers he doesn't do that well against, because he's usually out wrestles the wrestler. He usually out wrestles the other fighters, right? If they're strikers, he can out wrestle them, and if he takes them down, his jiu-jitsu is very good, especially on top. So it's a hard. I need to see him against Dustin. I need to see him against a Barboza, but Barboza's not there anymore. But I need to see him against Hooker. I need to see him against Gregor Gillespie. I need to see him against Brad Riddell. I need to see him against any of those top lightweights. You know what I mean? To be able to give you a proper read on where he sits. Without seeing him against any of those guys, I can't give you a proper read. If he goes out there and he out wrestles Gregor Gillespie like that, then he's a fucking monster. I don't know that he can. I don't know that he will. I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not saying that he can't. I'm not saying that he can't, or that I'd be super surprised if he did. But then you're going to go, oh, all right, well, fuck, that's what it is, you know. So it's hard. It's one of those answers that it's like it's hard to give a proper kind of thing. Pip Dennison says that guy sounds like a straight up fuckwit. He is, sir. Jay says Fairfield lockdown. Ugh, my thoughts are with you, my friend. Peter says Sterling is honestly very underrated. People just make fun of him for the Yarn fight, but he's still top 3 bantamweights right now, I believe. Well, he's the champ right now, so yeah, 100%. I don't know if he's underrated. To me, he's not. I think he's a fantastic, superb fighter. His grappling's no joke, and man, he's got like dynamic striking that comes out of all different angles. Hard to get a read on. Marshall Smarter says, well, we could always troll army him, just saying. Hud John says, realized why she was with him because they were both head cases. Dude, honestly, dude, when I was when she said that, she was so serious. Like she was way too good looking for this guy, you know? And I was thinking, like, how the fuck did this happen? You know what I mean? Like, what daddy issues do you have? You know, like, and I was really, and I don't know now. Like, I opened up a can of worms. You know, a Pandora's box of fucking problems. Because she was so thing. She goes, "Do you ever watch it?" She goes, "I get moist," like that, and that's how she said it to me, my friend. And we were just like, "What the fuck?" And every now and then, this was probably 10 years ago. My mate, who works somewhere completely different now, he will message me that exact sentence, and I fucking crack up. Um, Hakus Do says it was difference in coaching, not in ability. They were pretty close, to be honest. What, which one are you talking about? What are you talking about, Hakus? Hans Yolo says proper hooker fan. Yeah, he's a good fighter, man. DJ says Darius. Darius is another one. DJ, you're right. There's another fucking lightweight that you have to see him fight Darius before you can. I can make a proper assessment on it. I think Darius would be an awesome fight for Islam. I think he has the advantage against Gregor when it comes to the striking. To be honest, he's a long southpaw with good straight strikes, 100%. But all I'm saying with that is, if I see him against Gregor and he does that against Gregor, then I can give you a really good assessment. Um, it was hard. Like Thiago Moises is a tough dude, but you saw him lose every moment of the fight against Johnson until he got submitted. Um, like I didn't expect him to beat Islam. I didn't see how he was going to beat Islam. Hey, Fred, JT says, hey, Fab, my friend's going bald and he doesn't know whether he should get treatment or shave it off. Can you give him any advice? Shave it off, man. Shave it off. Just own that shit. Shave it off. Use that money for something else and move forward. Not Crafty says, just join. Who you want to win? Uh, Either, man. I don't care who wins. I'm just real curious. Like I said, there's a couple of those fights. The Imamov fight. The Let me pull them back up again. Yeah, there's a couple of fights there that I want to see. That I don't really have. This is who I want to see. I'm just really curious. The two middleweight fights and the bantam main event. They're the fights that I want to see. Um, Marshall Smarter says just in. She didn't have a daddy. Hakers Do says I was talking about his last fight. Whose fight, but man, you gotta. I don't know now what you're talking about. No, I'm not being mean to you. I'm just saying because I'm reading the comments as we go, so I'm not like in time with you. So just kind of give me a reference point. Big Davy Joy says we all know someone that lives their life being full of shit. Got to get away from them, man. They're a waste of time and energy. Only way to beat a liar is to cut them off. Yeah, no, but it is amusing. You got to give him that. Um, JT says, you're a good sport coach. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, JT. Morality Shift says, I think O'Malley will get embarrassed if he fights anyone in the top 10. In the last fight, seeing him constantly looking up on the clock during rounds, he seemed worried when Chris didn't go away. Could be. DJ says Soriano or Allen. That's the thing, man. That's what I'm talking about. Like, that's going to be like, coming of age for Soriano. I think if he could get past Brendan Allen, then we have a legitimate new not contender, but a legitimate new middleweight prospect in there. It's hard to see them without them stepping up, but this is a step up for Soriano. Same as for Imavov versus Heinisch. That fight is again a coming of age. Is Imavov moving through into being another great prospect in the middleweight division? That fight with Phil Hawes was a real interesting one. Like a really really interesting one that he could have won that fight. Schwett says, do you see either of these guys realistically beating Peter? Again, we will see. We will see. David says, how happy are you going to be when the Black Beast becomes a heavyweight champion? Interesting if he does. It's a tall order. He's got to get through Ghani and Ngannou, so it's going to be very interesting. Who are three fighters that I especially enjoy watching from Jay? Not including anyone I've coached or had anything to do with, right? Peter Yan. I do like watching. I'm just looking up some fighters that I've made notes of so that I don't miss people that I wanted to say with this, because I do have a list of fighters. And I just want to make sure that I have the right people that I'm saying. But definitely, I love watching Islam. I like watching. I like watching. Peter Yan's probably my favorite at the moment. Amosov, Yaroslav Amosov from Bellator. Amosov from Bellator. Peter Yan. Islam Makhachev. Who else? I've gone fucking stupid. All the names get mixed up in my head. Aaron Pico. I really like watching Aaron Pico fight. Yeah, there's a bunch there. Yeah. Hakers Do says Islam's last fight, he has way better coaches than Thiago. They weren't that far off in ability, but it is a 155 division. That's not really saying much. I disagree with you. I don't think it was the coaches that made the difference in that fight. Like, there's only so much you can do, and there's no way in that kind of grappling fight that Thiago was going to positionally beat Islam to get to those things. He wasn't going to outstrike Islam, and he certainly wasn't going to out wrestle him. So it's very hard to win those positions against them. Doesn't matter who your coaches are. Marshall Smarter says, oh, maybe he charged her for some physio. and it turned into a twisted peg injury, a Marvel film, or not. Geez. Peter Spear says, I think TJ will have to wrestle a lot to win against Corey. Could be. Hard to do, man, as you're getting older too, in the way that you have to wrestle as a lightweight. JTJT says, hey, Fab, how come Miocic didn't get a quick turnaround to fight for his heavyweight title? I think he was screwed by UFC. He deserves a quick turnaround given his record. I don't think Miocic is like popular like that with the UFC brass, you know? I don't think so. Pip Dennison says, that moisture story is worth the $30 you got ripped by dickhead. Pip Dennison, it's a fucking true story, my friend. It's a true story. JT says, hey, coach, who is the best fighter that you have coached? Oh, Rob, by fucking a fair stretch. You know, he's a phenomenon. Like, he's a proper phenomenon. But I did not make Rob. Do you know what I mean? Rob was just the right genetics, you know, like I just happened to be around and helped out and gave him some water every now and then. But yeah, he's the best fighter. Yeah. Schwert Lord says best fighter outside of UFC. So what do you mean? What do you mean by that, Schwert Lord? Luis Enrique says, is it possible to be a purely outside striker in MMA? Well, no, because you're gonna get at some point, you're gonna get like, you know, in the clinch and that. So you've got to be able to work the clinch in whatever you're going to do, whether you want to break off, whether you want to strike in the clinch, or you're going to throw knees, elbows, whatever. But you've got to be able to fight inside. But there's a lot of guys that fight really, really well on the outside, but they have to be good at fighting on the inside, you know. Stephen Thompson, when you say that, Stephen Thompson's probably the guy that comes into my mind. Arthur Sheen says, how's lockdown treating me? Like I said earlier in the show, like, the lockdown itself is fine because I like hanging out with my wife and my daughter and my dog, and we can go for a walk and that. But from a financial perspective, it's hard because the stuff that I do, even the coaching that I do with people, whether it's corporate or whether it's some fighters that I work with or some personal training that I do and whatnot, that's really hard right now because one, any of the like corporate kind of work that I do, which is where I make any real money, that's all gone. And anything that I had in the works, gone. And will be gone for a while. You know, this rest of this year will be a write-off as far as that's concerned. And then any of the stuff that I do with the athletes and that I can't see them, you know. And that it's not really, you don't really make a lot of money that way. DJ says Soriano has a judo wrestling background. He hits fucking hard, that kid. He hits hard. Want to see if his cardio holds up after a few takedowns. Just because Allen is at Sanford, I don't want to see him strike like in the Strickland fight. Yeah, I don't know. Seba says, do you regret not helping Rob when he had his ass invaded by his doctor? Here's a couple little interesting things on that. That wasn't actually his doctor. That wasn't his doctor. We never checked his credentials, anything. That was just he had to go to that doctor, which was organized by someone. So the guy might not have even been a doctor. I don't know. And no, I don't regret it because it could have been me. You know, it could have easily been me. The guy could have overpowered us both, and then he would have had his finger in my ass, and I can't have that. DJ says, I also meant Soriano does after defending a few takedowns. Now, I know what you meant, but I don't know. I've got to see that fight. Again, like I said, it's hard to say with Soriano until you see him. You'll know after this fight with Brendan Allen where he's at, you know, and you'll know with Imavov after Heinisch where he's at. Schwetlord says, I meant which fighter signed to other promotions, not UFC, is the most talented that I've worked with. Everyone that I've worked with that was that talented has ended up in the UFC, except for one person, but that I'm working with now currently, and I can't really talk about it right now. Daniel El Shahab says, views on Rose Namajunas. Dude, she's a fucking legit fighter. She's one of like, there's not a lot of depth in women's MMA, but Rose is a legit 100% proper fighter. Roberto Soldic, yeah, I've seen him fight in KSW. He's a very scary middleweight, welterweight. That Sweatlord. Yeah. Yeah, he was asking me people that I've worked with, though, and I haven't never worked with him. I was actually watching some of his fights because I was watching some of the there's some other guys, some really good guys at middleweight that haven't been signed yet. Some guys from the Caucasus and that, some really interesting guys. One foot out the door says, people tell me I'm a little psychotic. I call them fairies. That's fair enough. JT says, do you think you'll ever see a boxer like the standard of Canelo fight UFC? Surely some has the right amount of money to offer and then make 10 times as much with the sellout. The problem is that, say where Canelo's at, say if you had a black belt, Canelo's belt in boxing is coral belt, but his jiu-jitsu and his wrestling would be negative because to get to that level, you have to specialize and you have to be super talented and specialized. Is it worth you? That's like saying, is it worth, are we going to see, would we see Picasso ever paint a house? Like, he's a fucking artist. Do you know what I mean? He's not going to go paint your house. So you might see a Canelo take a UFC fight, like an MMA fight, maybe if he's way past his prime, but right now he'll make shit tons of money fighting boxing. One foot out the door says the amount of mental gymnastics to deal with hidden comments. What do you mean by that? JT says, what has this happened? I don't understand it. Marshall Smartest. Yeah, I was too frightened of that. Peter says, Jan or Glover, and how do they stack up against Yuri and Rakic? I think Glover is a guy that does what he does really, really well, which is nice, tidy boxing, single leg, run the pipe on that single, get to half guard, shoulder pressure, pass, go for guillotine or head arm chokes. That's how I see Glover, Can he beat Jan? Is that enough to beat Jan? I don't know, because what Glover does, he does really, really well. How do they, Jiri and Rakic? I see Jiri, and I have to say Jan's the best lightweight heavyweight because he's got the belt. I'm not going to disrespect that. But I see Jiri as probably the most dangerous light heavyweight at the moment. That's just me. That's where I say. And I see Rakic as very put together light heavyweight, like very, very, like very complete. You know what I mean? But I don't know that he beats a Jiri or a Jan or even a Glover. You got Garner Lewis, mate. Garner Lewis. Garner probably, if I had to gun to my head, just because like what we said before, he's got more ways to win. That doesn't always mean that means that he'll win, but I don't know. But I think Lewis is superbly dangerous. Stainless Stove says, Fab, you really stream quite consistently for a long time. You thought about joining a larger podcast to expand audience? Not really sure how that works. I don't know. Like you mean like a network? You mean? I don't think a network will have me, dude, because I'm still a relatively small podcast. But if you have some suggestions or you have some information about it or you can recommend, then let's go. Oh, you mean okay, going on as a guest. Stainless Stove says, go on Australia's Max Mofo's podcast. He's notoriously known for watching everything and would love you on his podcast. Let's hook it up. Let's do it. One foot out the door says YouTube privilege. One foot out the door says it's ridiculous how much I have to retype, edit a comment so that it appears. I'm sorry, mate. I'm sorry. I'm not in charge of that. DJ says, wouldn't be surprised if Garni finds a sub against Lewis despite his just stand up defense, laughing my ass off. Yeah, like I said, I think we spoke about this before. I think Lewis plays on being like a bit dumb or whatnot. It's a bit of an affectation. I don't think he's that dumb, and you don't get through everything he's gotten through, even like the Curtis Blades of this world and whatnot. And without he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. Salah says, have you seen Magomedov versus Peter Yan fights, Fab? I have. Kind of crazy how they're both undefeated and have only lost to each other, basically. Yeah. But their styles are a bit funny as well, like they kind of clash. Van Zandt versus Ostovich tonight, bare knuckle boxing. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'll probably maybe I'll try and do a fight companion on it. I'll see what time. Do you know what time that is in Australia? Does anyone know? Maybe I can do a fight companion for it. All right, guys, I've got to go, man. I've got to wrap it up. My wife's shepherd pie. She's cooked the shepherd pie. I want to eat that. I've been thinking about eating that all day. So thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell. Join us this Sunday for the fights. I'm going to start them a little bit early because I'm going to catch a middleweight fight. So join me early on that. Love you guys. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. Stay safe with the lockdown. Thank you so much, guys. Take care.